Hank Greenberg from the New York State Bar Association. Great to have you here on New York Now this week. Finally, we've been trying to set it up for months, and here you are now.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you for having me.
So the theme of this week's show is access to justice. And you are one of the people that I thought it was really important to talk to because you are one of the leaders in the legal industry, and you have really your finger on the pulse of what's happening in the state's courts and really how people have that access to justice. And I want to start there. What have you heard from attorneys, litigants, judges about how the courts are operating right now and how smooth of a transition it's been from our regular court proceedings to this kind of whole digital new infrastructure that we're looking at here?
Well, the state court system over the course of the last 4 weeks, 5 weeks, has done an extraordinary job moving from a physical and actual platform to a virtual platform. So now we have what the courts refer to as a virtual court system. And that's being stood up and improved with every passing day because no one would have anticipated the world we now live in. And the courts are now in a place where cases that were pending before COVID-19 struck are being addressed by judges and their staff across the state. The open question, of course, is when will we move to a place where we'll be able to allow for new lawsuits to be filed? And of course, now that the governor's reopening plan is going into motion, phase 1 in May 15th, I guess phase 2 a few weeks thereafter, in those communities where government buildings are reopened, I would expect we'll see courthouses physically reopening. How proceedings are addressed in an open courtroom in a world with physical distancing, that's still to be determined.
Right, that's the big question going forward, both for civil proceedings and you have criminal proceedings as well, is, how do you get a jury in there when you can't have people close together? Is that even possible, that kind of question? I want to focus on the civil side of things with you because we're going to be talking about criminal law at a different part of this week's show. But when you look at proceedings like this, I'm just imagining these everyday proceedings that you see in court, like family proceedings and personal injury cases. And it must be so different. And can you help me kind of divide where things are right now? Can people file new lawsuits along those lines or start new proceedings in the face of family proceedings right now? Or are all of those closed off right now?
No, all of them are not closed off. Certain emergency court proceedings, the ones you could probably guess, are open. So those cases that sort of rise to the level of, let's just describe them as critical to the basic functioning of our justice system and our criminal justice system, the courts are hearing in real time.
So you were building this network with the state court system that I think is just this fantastic initiative where you're building this network of pro bono attorneys, which are attorneys that will represent somebody at no cost. And there are two areas that I want to focus on, but we can look a little broader as well. The first is unemployment. And we know that the state has a huge problem with unemployment right now in terms of a backlog of claims. They're going through them as fast as they can. But help me understand, if I'm a person who is filing for unemployment and I've reached a part of the process, at what part of that process would I want to reach out to an attorney? What people should be taking advantage of this kind of service that you're putting together?
Well, we are making available free legal assistance for those persons who have filed a claim for unemployment insurance benefits and the claim was denied. There's evidence that people who are represented by counsel fare much better during the appeal process than people who aren't. And by definition, someone who's filing unemployment insurance claims and seeking those benefits in all likelihood is in a position where they can't afford an attorney. So we have reached out and built a volunteer corps of lawyers all throughout the state, from Niagara Falls to Montauk. Whatever the outcome is of their appeal, simply having the opportunity to talk to a thoughtful, intelligent, empathetic person who can hear their problem, hear their legal situation, and have explained to them what their options are, we've discovered is a source of some solace and comfort to these people, and hopefully their appeal process works out as well as possible for them.
I think the same is true for tenants and the tenant-landlord disputes, which you also have these pro bono attorneys for that purpose as well. As our viewers know, the governor has an eviction waiver, so people can't be evicted for not paying rent right now. But that doesn't mean that they may not need an attorney at some point over these next couple of months. Can you kind of briefly explain why people would be seeking attorneys right now outside of eviction areas?
After COVID-19, there's going to be, we believe, just an unprecedented demand for legal services, especially impacting the poor and minorities in the state. So the landlord-tenant area, that field with so many people unable to pay rent who are unemployed, those disputes are just growing and growing and growing. If you think of a dam and the water behind the dam, rising and rising and rising in terms of disputes between landlords and tenants. When the moratorium is lifted, the opportunities for litigation, lawsuits of all kinds will be enormous. We're going to be looking to try to create alternative dispute resolution models that will allow people to try to work out their differences even before August 20. Because if those cases are not resolved and the floodwaters keep growing and growing and growing, and we don't find a way to begin to adjust those disagreements, have people reach resolutions and settlements that are workable for them, then come August 20, when the courts are open, they will be overwhelmed by these cases. So we've put together a blue ribbon group, the best and the brightest. They're looking at that issue. They're thinking of different ways from a public policy perspective so that we can address this growing demand. And also, as I said, we're standing up a statewide network of attorneys who will be trained to help people who can't afford an attorney in this area.
So just so I don't miss anything, the pro bono network that you have formed, we mentioned unemployment, we mentioned housing issues. Are there any other legal issues that these attorneys are going to be able to help people with that we should mention to our viewers?
Yes, many, and almost as many different areas as the imagination can conjure, because COVID-19 is putting on the legal system stresses and strains, creating new types of cases and disputes, all of which are now on pause, but in short order will begin to occupy judges and courts and juries. So, for example, we imagine that when the crisis passes, we'll see an unprecedented number of disputes between creditors and debtors, family court proceedings, you name it, a wide array. So, we're looking everywhere for volunteers, and we're very gratified by the response so far.
All right, well, we will keep an eye on it. Hank Greenberg from the New York State Bar Association. Always great to have your perspective on this topic. Always great to give this information to our viewers. Thanks so much for being here on New York Now.